Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain Avengement. This movie tells the story of a prisoner who became stronger after years of fighting in prison. Then he escapes for avengement on those responsible. Can he avenge those who have wronged him? Let's find out in Avengement. The film Avengement begins with the story of a man named Cain Burgess, who visits his older brother, Lincoln Burgess. Lincoln is a gangster boss and loan shark. When Cain approached, Lincoln was playing cards with his men in the basement of his house. The purpose of Cain's arrival was to borrow money from his brother to open a business. Unfortunately, Lincoln has a principle of not lending money to his family members. Lincoln was afraid that if his family members couldn't pay the debt, his men would come to hurt him. Therefore, Lincoln refused to lend money to Cain. He didn't want Cain to get hurt if he couldn't afford it. However, because Cain still insists on borrowing money, Lincoln finally asks Cain to do something to get the money. Cain is asked to meet a man named Hyde, a staff member at Lincoln's office. Arriving at Lincoln's office, Hyde shows Cain a photo of a woman. Hyde asked him to follow the woman in the photo, then took the envelope in her bag. It turned out that the woman had just left Lincoln's office with borrowed money. Cain, who did not know the problem, immediately carried out the task that Hyde had assigned. Arriving at a deserted crossroads, Cain managed to snatch the woman's bag. Because the borrowed money was stolen, the woman immediately ran after Cain. In panic, the woman did not see the car passing at high speed. She was hit and died instantly. Cain, who saw the incident from afar, could only stand still on the side of the highway. Unfortunately, Cain's actions were seen by the police and he was immediately arrested. At the police station, he is interviewed by Detective O'Hara, who then alerts Cain about Lincoln's illegal operation. O'Hara said that Lincoln had trapped many of its customers by offering high-interest loans. Many reports say that the money was robbed before the customer used the money. Cain, who just found out about his brother's actions, was very surprised to hear that. Then, he asked to bring a lawyer to defend him. However, it cannot be fulfilled. Detective O'Hara asks Cain to cooperate with him so that his sentence can be reduced. Cain, who wants to protect Lincoln, refuses the offer. He prefers to remain silent and is willing to be sent to prison. Later, Sergeant Evans took Cain to a room, where he was beaten and tortured by Sergeant Evans until he was seriously injured. Still, he remained silent. Not accepting Evans' treatment, Cain fought back. However, with his hands cuffed behind his back, he struggled to avoid Sergeant Evans' punches and kicks. Eventually, Cain was put in the notorious London prison, Belmarsh. On his first day in prison, Cain was already involved in a commotion. When he came out of his cell and was about to go take a shower, suddenly, a big man stopped and attacked him. A fight ensued between the two of them, witnessed by the other inmates. Not long after, Cain was ganged up by other inmates, as if they had been after Cain. He was tortured so brutally that his body was battered and several of his front teeth were broken. After receiving treatment at the police hospital, Cain's broken teeth were replaced with metal dentures, making Cain's face even more sinister. One day, Cain was visited by his mother. His mother asked Cain to endure his sentence. She also told Cain that she had been trying to find a lawyer for him. However, her financial condition made it difficult to pay the attorney's fees. Cain asked his mother why Lincoln didn't come to help him. She simply replied that Lincoln had his own problems to solve. Hearing this, Cain was annoyed that his involvement in this case was none other than Lincoln's doing. While spending time in prison, Cain continued to train his physique day and night. He routinely practices fighting moves alone to improve his fighting ability. Sometime later, as he was walking alone in the prison hallways, two people approached him holding knives. It seemed that the two of them had intended to kill him. He then fought against them alone. Luckily, he was able to defend himself and knocked the two inmates down until they were seriously injured. However, ironically, when the police learned about the attack on Cain, Cain actually received additional punishment for injuring another inmate. He certainly did not accept the decision. He only defended himself when the inmates came to attack him. After spending a long time in prison, Cain was again involved in a fight with the inmates. But, one by one, Cain was able to overthrow them, including a tattooed prisoner who was seriously injured by Cain's attack. Cain also asked why the tattooed prisoner attacked him. The tattooed convict reveals that they are lured in by a large prize money if they can kill Cain. What's even more surprising is that it was Lincoln who ordered the inmates to kill him. Knowing that his life is in danger in prison, Cain is increasingly wary of anyone who approaches him. Beatings after beatings continued in prison, and he would attack with all his might to survive. Until finally, an inmate sprayed a chemical liquid on his face, causing part of his face to burn. The prison guards came and saved Cain. Unfortunately, because of this incident, Cain again received additional punishment. 3 years passed, when one day, he was visited again by his mother. During their conversation, his mother learned that Kane had been transferred to a special prison cell. That means Kane is often a troublemaker. Annoyed, Kane thinks his mother needs to know about Lincoln's behavior. However, before Kane could speak, his mother said she had cancer and needed chemotherapy treatment. Hearing this, Kane became sad and gave up his intention to expose Lincoln's disgrace. He was afraid that if his mother found out about Lincoln's behavior, her illness would get worse. Day after day, Kane became out of control. He attacks everyone in prison. He was also often beaten by other inmates. Until one day, Kane had to be stopped by a squad of prison guards when he was seriously injured, and immediately taken to the police hospital. While being treated, Kane is approached by Detective O'Hara, who offers Kane a deal so they can capture Lincoln. After a long time in prison with many incidents, Kane finally agreed to cooperate, but on one condition. He wanted to meet his mother, who was dying in the hospital. Detective O'Hara agreed to the terms and allowed Kane to visit his mother with police escort. However, when he arrived at the hospital, he received sad news. His mother just died. The two policemen escorting Kane immediately asked him to return to prison. However, Kane was adamant that he wanted to see his mother's body one last time. Finally, the police allowed him. Seeing his mother lying stiff in the morgue, Kane felt very angry. He blames Lincoln for not being able to take care of their mother. Kane then escorted to return to prison. While in the hospital elevator, he unexpectedly attacked the two policemen who were escorting him. With ease, he can overthrow the two policemen. Then, he ran out of the hospital and managed to escape. After that, Kane visits an accountant named Stokes, who lives in a luxurious mansion. Stokes is responsible for managing the finances of the Lincoln Company. How shocked Stokes was when he saw Kane barging into his house. Kane asked Stokes to show Lincoln's bank account. Instead of obeying, Stokes grabbed a gun and kicked Kane out of the house. Kane, who was used to being attacked while in prison, could easily turn things around. He can take the gun that Stokes is holding. Kane also threatened Stokes to open Lincoln's account. Finally, Stokes obeyed Kane's orders. After Lincoln's account appears on the computer screen, then, Kane asks Stokes to return all the money in the account to all the victims of his brother's fraud. As a result, in his brother's account, there was only $1,500 left. After dealing with Stokes, Kane then went to a bar to follow Sergeant Evans, who had tortured him at the police station. Sergeant Evans is a corrupt cop who pits Kane and Lincoln against each other. He tells Lincoln that Kane will open his mouth and betray him, so Lincoln is willing to spend money for the inmates to kill Kane in prison. Upon learning that he was being followed, Sergeant Evans began the fight. In that fight, Kane was able to keep up with Sergeant Evans. Punches and kicks were thrown at each other until Kane took the lead. Finally, Sergeant Evans fell at the hands of Kane. After finishing his business with Sergeant Evans, Kane continues his search to where Lincoln is. That night, on a street, when he was looking for Lincoln's whereabouts, he saw Toon and Rook, two of Lincoln's men who were on duty to collect debts from one of Lincoln's customers. Kane took full advantage of the opportunity. He came to attack and cut Rook's arm off. Not long after, Rook bled to death, and Kane immediately left the place. The next afternoon, Kane visits a bar that is Lincoln's headquarters. He attacked two guards to get inside. Arriving at the bar, he immediately sat down at the table. Opposite him, a female bartender named Bez came to serve him. As Kane was enjoying his drink, he suddenly heard from the table behind him that a man talking to some of Lincoln's men there, who turned out to be Toon, the person he attacked last night. He heard that Toon actually reversed the facts by saying that he fought the person who attacked Rook alone with his bare hands, so that person ran away. Hearing Toon's story, Kane immediately laughed very loudly. Kane explains to them that it was him who killed Rook. Of course, Toon and the rest of Lincoln's men don't believe it. Toon, who feels belittled by Kane's ridicule, invites him to fight. Eventually, a commotion ensued until Kane fired a gun in the room. It wasn't long before Hyde, the man who had Kane snatched women's purses at the beginning of the film, was seen exiting one of the rooms in the bar. Kane immediately pointed a gun at Hyde and asked him to join the rest of Lincoln's men to stand in the corner of the room. When he saw Kane's face, Hyde recognized him immediately. However, Hyde also didn't believe that it was Kane who killed Rook. Hearing this, Kane immediately threw a plastic package in front of them. Then, Toon opened it and looked so shocked, because when he opened it, the contents of the plastic package were Rook's severed hand. Later, Kane threatened Hyde and asked him to call Lincoln to come to the bar. In order to not look suspicious, Hyde says that he needs to meet Lincoln to discuss Rook's death. Not long after, Lincoln came escorted by some of his men. Lincoln was shocked when he entered the bar and saw Kane was already there holding a gun. Then Kane threatened all the men who had just entered the bar into emptying the bullets in their guns. After that, Kane also told what he experienced until he became like this. starting when he was arrested by the police for robbing a woman's wallet and causing her to be killed, then ganged up in prison by the inmates who had been paid by Lincoln. Not to mention the names of the victims of Lincoln's fraud that often appeared in his mind, and his mother's death, because no one takes care of her. Lincoln does not accept Kane's accusations. He replied that during that time, he had also helped their mother's treatment during her illness. However, for Kane's case, Lincoln feels Kane went to jail because of his own carelessness. Hearing Lincoln's answer, Kane became more and more angry until he fired a rifle at Hyde. Suddenly, Bez, who was standing behind the desk, hit Kane's head with a bottle which made him fall. Seeing this opportunity, Lincoln's other men immediately attacked Kane and ganged up on him. The fight was inevitable, where Kane was alone against some of Lincoln's men. They attacked with logs and anything they could reach to hit Kane. However, Kane, who was used to being beaten while in prison, could easily overthrow them one by one. In the end, the only people left in the bar were Kane, Lincoln, and Bez. Lincoln grabs Kane's rifle that was previously used to shoot Hyde. He pulled the trigger of the rifle, intending to kill his brother. However, the rifle's bullets had run out. Bez then gives Lincoln a knife, and the brothers immediately fought. In a pinch, Kane was able to turn his brother's hand that was holding a knife and plunge the knife into Lincoln's chest. Lincoln finally killed. At the end of the film, the customers who had been tricked by Lincoln looked shocked when they checked their savings accounts. Unbeknownst to them, the balance in their account increased. Then, Detective O'Hara got some good news from a phone call. He was told that the fugitive he had been looking for, Lincoln, had died. From this film, we can take a lesson that what comes around goes around. If we do evil, evil will come and punish us. From Lincoln's character, we can see that the deception he committed to many people ultimately got his punishment. If the court can't drag him to jail, then the law of the jungle runs to stop his evil actions. Meanwhile, from Kane's character, we can see how his tenacity can turn things around. Nothing is impossible in this world. If we keep trying, the goals that have been set can be achieved according to our expectations.